Yeah, I appreciate that.
The guy that I coached us with was,
1 to 2 days a week.
if he wasn't.
Okay, we'll call the meeting, excuse me, the hearing to order for the budget amendment hearing. If there are any questions or concerns that you would like to address to the board, now would be an appropriate time to do so regarding the budget amendment that has been published. Page 1 of the packet. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks. It's a big class, that kindergarten class. That's Finn's class, that's next year, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I was gonna highlight it and make it bigger, but I
Yeah.
don't think I need to.
Yeah.
One more minute. Remove that from the agenda. And that one. And then add. This one's gonna stay, sorry. Okay, we'll close the budget hearing and call the meeting to order. If you would please stand if you're able and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, somewhere I imagine. Okay, Jackie, you have the roll, we have a quorum, the agenda. We have a couple items to amend under personnel. Let's see, now, hang on a second.
Actually, number 3B, Director of.
3B in new business, we're gonna scratch that for tonight. And then Brent, you're gonna add hirings for specify Megan Witzel at number 7 under C,
Yep.
10C7.
Yep. And so then I'd also like to add a number 9 for resignations.
Yep.
Megan Witzel, middle school volleyball coach. And then also like to remove number 5 from resignations.
Okay.
And then also under hirings, summer school staff, so 6B. I put Patty Perrette, it should be Missy Skidmore under number 5. I have that right, Jason?
Yep.
Okay.
Plus an additional list of bills that was sent out this afternoon.
Thank you, Jackie. Any others? Is there a motion to approve the agenda with those amendments, including the additional list of bills?
Are we going to, with 3B, what is the plan of action? I guess, can we ask questions, or do we have to?
Do you want the personnel committee to, like, kind of like we did with the volleyball? Or how would you like to proceed with that?
I think that's gotta be a full board decision. In my opinion. I don't know.
I think it's something that we come back and visit either in a special meeting or sometime between now and next month.
Mhm.
We need to take action, I think, my opinion at least, before next month, before the beginning of the following school year, which would be July 1st, right?
Yep.
So something
I
we
think
need
we
to
have 30 days prior to the termination of this contract that we have to notify the valley. So if we're gonna make changes.
So then, so you're saying
We
we
have
have
to
to
take
take action
action.
on? Okay.
Because the current contract expires end of June. Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll have to schedule a meeting then before the end of May.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda with those amendments, including additional list of bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with those changes.
Second?
Motion second to approve the agenda with the additional items, the amendments to the agenda and additional list of bills. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public input on non-agenda items. Is there anyone signed up to address the board there? Gary? No. We'll move on to approval of past minutes. Approval of minutes of past meetings.
As noted, I sent out a corrected page 7 earlier today. Those aren't actually published minutes, just FYI. I simply just did a recap of our work session. Normally those follow a board meeting, and so I provided a work session recap, so just know that those have been corrected.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Any others? Is there a motion to approve those with that change?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion second to approve the minutes of past meetings with the noted change. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of financial items, financial report, summary list of bills, including this evening's additions and any other things, Jackie.
The general fund summary 3-year comparison is listed on page 8. I don't have anything specific to report. Kind of just go month by month until closer to it is close to the end of the year, but I guess until we kind of get through May, I guess is a pretty good indicator of where we'll be and as the year closes out. But as you can see, our revenue is evening out a little bit more closely with last year. Our expenditure is the same. And then our cash is still significantly higher, but that was again to be expected because we did have a cash reserve levy last year. And we're ending the month of April at 3.5 million. Salaries were up more significant than prior months because of the governor's retention bonuses. Those are included in the salaries on the left. On the next page, special revenue funds. You can see the different funds before you. Kind of steady. We don't have any major projects that are coming out of any of these funds at this time. For July 1st, we will have a principal and interest payment that will come out of the SAVE fund, and that's approximately $220,000. So look for that in the future months. And then in the next page, activity and proprietary funds, you have your activity fund, hot lunch, construction, farm, and the split. As you can see, student construction is at a negative balance, which we know. We'll make some adjustments as that goes to the end of the year. That can't end in a negative, so we'll do a borrow repayment kind of a thing until that house is completed and sold. And then additional list of bills. There are 13 pages of bills plus what I handed out. A lot of it is officials, just FYI, there's a lot of checks being cut. Again, just a new season is starting. And so each softball and baseball game has up to 3 officials depending on what's happening during that event, whether it's 9th grade JV and varsity. I'd also like to note that we received a $1,700 donation today from Premier Bank for a matching backpack program promo they had going on. So they did send us some checks and then some matching donations from their employees in the bank. And then also wanted to thank Brent and Amanda Jorth as well as Carrie Davis on behalf of the staff for providing food for a nacho bar during Teacher Appreciation Week. So I know that I enjoyed it as well as all of the staff. So thank you to you guys.
Jackie, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question. The split fund is not included in the general fund. It is not that 3.5
It is its
million.
own fund? Yep, so it's its own fund.
But it's not part of that 3.5 million.
No.
I didn't think so.
Nope, it's, if you went to the bank and looked at the checking account, it would be included in there, but no, it is not part of the 3.5 million, it is its own. All the funds are included in their own cash, their own investments.
So speaking of which, do we have over 4 million then in the checking account per se? I think that's our limit, isn't it? That one institution?
Correct.
So
We should not, because we have, all the funds are split out between US Bank and Premier Bank and Frontier, so we should be fine.
Okay. Just want to make sure we didn't go over that. I think it's 4 million we're approved for.
And we might have throughout the year, and those are, it's just kind of the things we have to.
Yeah, not a
Yeah,
huge.
nope, not a huge, that will not be a huge deal in the auditor's opinion.
So, and we don't have, that 3.5, I would expect it will go down next year because we don't have much cash reserve left.
Correct, and we will have less and less ESSER funds coming
Right.
in. Correct.
Okay. Anything else, Jackie?
Nope.
Any other questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve those financial items, including the additional list of bills?
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion second to approve the financial items as listed, including the additional bills. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Administrative reports, discussion items, recognition, congratulations to students, staff, and community.
So I gave you a whole packet of information, but one of the first items is your school board recognition certificate. So May is School Board Recognition Month, and so we want to thank each member of the board for their service to the community and our students. So a very small token of all your time and dedication to this role. So thank you for that. Secondly, there is our recognition for the month of May. So the first item there, we had 4th and 5th and 7th and 8th grade students participate in the DORT math beat. 4th and 5th graders back in April, and then 7th and 8th graders today. So 10 students from each grade level, they're listed there.
I want to give special congratulations to Brody Harderer, who placed 14th out of all the students that competed in the 5th grade age division. And then 7th graders, Mr. Groen emailed me this afternoon, and that Egan Peterson placed 2nd overall, so that's outstanding. And then in the 8th grade, Elliot Funk placed 20th overall. So they competed individually and then as a team as well. So we don't have the results yet for the teams from the 7th and 8th grade, but the 4th and 5th grade teams didn't place in the top 5. So, but hats off to Steph Baker, Mike Groen, Jackie Van Veldhuizen, and Sarah Groen for preparing the kids for that competition last month and again today. We also want to recognize the middle school band students. We had many kids that participated in solo and ensemble contests back in April, and we had 4 students, Ada Vanderzee, Serenity Floyd, Amber Langholt, and Alea Polscher, that were recognized as judges' favorite performances. So as Mrs. Deitch explained the other night at the band concert, each judge is in a room for the entire day judging solos and ensembles. And each judge gets to pick basically their favorite performance out of the entire day for all the kids that they saw. So that's quite the accomplishment for 4 Central Lyon students with 4 different judges. So hats off to them, and thank you to Mrs. Deitch. Girls golf team, we want to congratulate them on their conference championship. That's the 2nd conference championship for girls golf in the history of Central Lyon. Last one coming in 1982. So obviously they qualified for state and finished as the runner-up last year in Class 1A, but they did not win the conference last year. So that's quite the accomplishment for them to do that. Last Friday, they won the regional semifinal, the girls did, by 42 strokes. So that's a pretty significant margin of victory. And then we had 3 of the top 5 individuals at the regional meet. So Mariah Gerleman was the individual medalist, Jana Groen was 3rd, and Amelia Schneiderman was 4th individually. So they play Wednesday for a chance to go to the state meet. So congratulations to the girls. We wish them the best of luck on Wednesday. On the back, we've got the girls and boys track teams. They ran last Friday after getting kind of stormed out on Thursday with that, I guess, derecho that went through. But the qualifiers for this week's state track meet, Aubrey Metzger in the shot put, Reagan Van Wy in the 200-meter dash, and then the 4x4 relay for the ladies, Ashlyn Davis, Riley Weiler, Afton Schlumbum, and Reagan Van Wy. And then alternates, Alexis Austin and Mary Schriever. 4x8, Riley Weiler, Kaylee Davis, Mary Schriever, and Afton Schlumbum, with alternates Brooklyn Krull and Kaylee Floyd. And then the distance medley, Reagan Van Wy, Ashlyn Davis, Afton Schlumbum, and Mary Schriever, with Veronica Wagmeister and Kaylee Davis as the alternates. For the boys' side, high jump, Andrew Austin, 100-meter dash and 200-meter dash, Zach Lutmer. The 110 high hurdles, Gable Van Beek. And then the 4x100 relay, Cooper Spies, Reese Vanderzee, Graham Eben, and Zach Lutmer, with Andrew Austin and Caden Van Berkom as the alternates. The 4x2 team of Cooper Spies, Reese Vanderzee, Zach Lutmer, Andrew Austin, and Graham Eben will be an alternate, and Weston Frecking also an alternate. And then the shuttle hurdle, Andrew Austin, Reese Vanderzee, Caden Van Berkom, and Gable Van Beek, with Graham Eben as the alternate. So lots of success this spring. We were talking before, a couple of you came in tonight. We got our first baseball game tonight. So they're in, some of these guys are double dipping this week. So baseball and softball was moved up a week, and it's just a really, really busy time on top of the fact that it's graduation week. So hats off to all the coaches and all the athletes and students for their performances. Staff recognition, I had a thank you from Rebecca Hakeman specifically to the paraeducators that she's worked with. Brenda Vandentop, Charlotte Klingenberg, and Sherry Ladd. And Brenda and Charlotte have worked with Mrs. Hakeman since she took the job 6 years ago. So she wants to thank all three of those ladies for establishing a welcoming, hardworking, motivating environment, and for their kind of lifelong learning mindset, flexibility, and easygoing demeanor. So Mrs. Hakeman will be done here at the end of the school year. We wish her the best, but on her behalf, we thank the paraeducators that she works with on a day-to-day basis. And then community recognition, Bruce Eckenrod wanted me to thank Brent Clausen for all of his help at the ball fields. Brent has helped assemble some of the equipment that the Booster Club purchased, has constructed the new benches in the softball dugouts, and then made multiple repairs to the field marking equipment that we use for both baseball and softball, but also the football field in the fall. So we tip our cap to Brent Clausen. And then like Jackie had alluded to, I didn't put it on here, but I want to take one more opportunity to thank and recognize all of our staff members, teachers, our custodians, our paraeducators, our bus drivers, secretaries, food service staff, leadership team members. You know, the first week of May is Teacher Appreciation Week. But we tip our caps to them, and we want to thank all the community businesses that helped recognize staff during Teacher Appreciation Week. So, principals, anybody else you'd like to recognize? All right, thank you. Okay, thank you for those. Any communications? I don't have any. Okay, presentation from Mr. Bay and Mr. Cruz on our computer science plan.
It's okay if I slide up to the
Absolutely.
table, all right? Showtime. All right, and Mr. Dorothy gave everybody the
Yep,
framework we've
it's in
already
the
laid out,
packet,
so,
yep.
yeah, I'm gonna give you just kind of a summary overview of it. I know you'll probably take a look at it later time, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to any of us in here. The four of us, excuse me, have been on the committee, and then Jared DeBay, he has softball tonight, and I think it was picture night tonight too, so I think it got a little hectic out there, but, you know, mainly, the biggest thing with what we've been working on is, you know, the governor has a mandate to include more computer science into districts, essentially K through 12. You know, we're looking at it from a standpoint of what we have now and just kind of expanding outward into the upper spectrum of students as well downward. I'm just gonna go through a summary of, you know, a few things that we've talked about, and then if you're looking at the framework too and you have any questions, feel free to let me know. So basically what we had as of right now, we have, you know, daily tech ed 6 through 8, and then 5th grade has a rotational 1 day a week, right, Mr. Harmon, for tech ed at this point. And so, you know, we're coming from a place of some introduction, you know, for students, but not really broad and wide ranging, which is what we hope to move to after we're done with our whole plan that we put together. You know, at the high school level, we have some computer offerings between Mr. Town and Mr. Allen and a couple other, the business entrepreneurship class does some technology, things like that. And so what we really talked about recently is at the high school level, trying to be a little bit more focused with that. And so Jared will be moving up to teach some more high school classes next year. And then that way we can kind of have more of a go-to as far as computer science at the high school level. So that's what we're looking at there. One of the things I jotted down and kind of mentioned, but you know, as a district, this is a mandate that the governor is putting out, and so, you know, a big requirement for us, and we just want to make sure we're compliant and doing everything that we're supposed to do. So next year will be a big push to start on our plan and move forward with things. What we anticipate next year for 2nd through 4th grade, at this point, we'll have the classroom teachers either work together as teams or take it upon themselves individually to potentially start incorporating more tech ed at those levels. And then down the road, we've had discussions where it will potentially become a special for the kids and maybe rotational special with their art, music, PE, or once a week rotation, kind of similar to what 5th grade has now. And so we'll look at that after next year. So for next year, we're looking at the classroom teachers to pick up more of the actual, introducing more computer science in at that level. But then moving forward, we'll have more of a plan to expand to from there. So for 5th and 6th grade, next year will be the first year that we have an actual daily tech ed there as well. We recently had some applicants, and I'm assuming you guys have kind of discussed that aspect of it already. So we have Eric Arnold coming in, and he's going to be part of our computer science team. He's got a tremendous background in computer science and worked with a wide age range of kids and done a lot of really interesting things. So it'll be good to have him on the team. So he'll handle daily 5th and 6th grade tech ed. And then I'll still keep working with 7th and 8th grade tech ed. And in the past, a lot of the 7th and 8th grade was really applications based as far as Microsoft applications, things like that. And so we are looking to expand that too, to incorporate more of the areas of computer science and not just look at productivity software as much and branch out into some other things. And then with Eric coming on board and having more contact with kids, he can also start facilitating some of the application, at a younger age too. The reality of it is a lot of times the kids are asked to make a PowerPoint or, things like that. And as a classroom teacher, I think, we know that the kids probably know how to do that, but that doesn't necessarily mean they know how to do it well, and maybe we should give them more guidance. And so they'll be able to handle some of that in his 5th and 6th grade tech ed as well. So as far as high school then, Jared is going to have 2 levels of computer science to start off with, and they'll both basically be based out of the code.org curriculum. We actually went over, Jared, Jason and I went over to MOC and just had a visit over there to see what they were using with their curriculum. We went to Joel Blunt's classroom, and he uses code.org with both of his levels of computer science, his initial and then his advanced group. And so we just felt like that was a good start for us. The nice thing is, obviously it is all online, and so it's not something that the kids would be limited to doing just at school because they can access the curriculum anywhere they have internet access. At the same time, anything tech ed related, you always want to be aware of resources and things like that. So I don't see Jared having a big push to have him complete a lot of work outside the classroom. He'd much rather be there and be more hands-on with the kids in case they have any questions. So, but that's our initial plan for that. So, speaking of code.org really quick, we are going to start incorporating some of that more into 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th as well. And so at the 5th grade level, they have a CS fundamentals, computer science fundamentals. And so we're going to use that with 5th grade. And I'm pretty sure Eric is going to be fine with that. I know he's mentioned in the interview process that he'd already worked with code.org already. And then with 6th grade, he'll follow some of that up, but then there are some units that are in the CS discoveries, which I actually started using this year with the 7th and 8th grade. And so we'll incorporate some of that into 6th grade, and then I'll keep branching on from there, and in 7th and 8th grade, introduce a few more units. And so they have a 8-unit curriculum right now for that CS discoveries, and we're kind of thinking along the lines of 2 units in 6th grade, 2 in 7th, or 3 in 7th, excuse me, and 3 in 8th, to cover all 8 units of that, so, along with other things too. So, aside from that, Eric coming in and having a wide range of previous history and computer knowledge, I'm sure there's going to be things that he's really passionate about and enjoys doing too. We'll just try to see how we can fit them in with the 5th and 6th grade curriculum there. I know he's a very big Lego League and robotics guy, so I could see some of that getting facilitated on there. And I actually already know Mr. Pitleski does some of that already as well, so I think they'll work well together, and I think the kids will enjoy that. So, and he is a fan of doing keyboarding as well, because that's, as long as I've done tech ed, like 5th and 6th grade are really big grade levels where we've always incorporated a lot of tech, or keyboarding into that, so. From there, for 7th and 8th grade, outside of code.org, there are a few other resources I used this year as far as coding. There's Code Academy. We used a website from a book that I read that was Read, Write, Code, and they have their own website where there was some coding exercises we could do in that as well. So we incorporated some of that. But then one of the things that we've talked about at our meetings is it's not always coding. Like I think a lot of people, as soon as they hear computer science, they're like, oh, writing programs and you know, creating software and things like that. And it's not always that either. So some of the things that we've touched upon so far is incorporating some 3D printing in at the 7th, 8th grade level. I know Jared actually did some 3D design with the 6th grade kids this year, and in the past, when I taught 6th grade, I did that as well. And so it'll be nice to take those designs and make them actual physical products that the kids get to see. And it's a little cross-curricular as well, because you have to take into account some of the math, your material costs and things like that to limit or give some guidelines for the kids as far as what they're creating. Otherwise, I'm sure we'd have full-size models of playground equipment or something like that, and probably don't need that at this point. And then outside of the elective classes that Jared has, Greg will still be teaching his digital arts, yeah. I was gonna say, is it digital vision? Yeah, digital art. So, you know, there still will be that aspect of it, which is outside of kind of a coding aspect as well. So it doesn't always have to be about programming, but otherwise, you know, one of the big things that we've talked about is some cross-curricular things as well. And so at the 5th and 6th grade levels, we were looking at Night of the Notables. You know, are there some technology aspects that we could start incorporating a little bit more into that? In the past, when I first started with 6th grade tech ed, I had worked with Sheila Maxwell to do some digital book reports and things like that too. And so I think Eric, you know, being there and being really willing to be creative, I think he can step in and see if they want to do more projects along those lines. And so that was always really fun with the kids to get to go ahead and create avatar characters that read their book reports for them. And it's nice for them if they're not so willing to get up in front of the class and give a book report, they can show it on the screen instead. So with the 7th and 8th grade kids for myself, you know, we still have the biography projects. And so this year, Lenny did a lot with the PowerPoints, and you know, next year if it gets to the point where she wants more of it worked out in my classroom, we can, you know, look at that as well. I think this year, being her first year working on it, like she just wanted to make sure she had a firm grasp on what was happening, so it was just easier for her to have the kids do it in class. Otherwise, as far as other cross-curricular things for 7th and 8th grade, in the past we've done some disaster movies with the science classes, Holocaust videos with the literature classes when they go through that unit. And so, you know, those have been the big things. I've always thought maybe there was a better way to do, or see if we could get some math cross-curricular in there, but I don't know. Math can be really hands-on, but I don't know if it translates to watching it on a screen. That's something I think about sometimes, but haven't come up with an answer for it yet. So, and then, you made it just in time, huh? Getting close to the end, so. You know, at the high school level, you know, Jared won't necessarily look at as much cross-curricular outside of the fact that, you know, maybe the kids will incorporate something that they're working on in class in one of their others, but, you know, working with older kids, they go in so many different directions, it's hard to focus on just one thing. So, otherwise, you know, outside of what we're doing in the building here, you know, we still have dual credit options through NCC. And so kids will be able to take dual credit classes and you know, further advance their computer science if they'd like. And then some of the things we're looking at as far as community involvement, just reaching out with DGR, you know, obviously anytime you're talking engineering, there's that CAD element where, you know, are you gonna go ahead and make some 3D designs or computer aided drafting? And then Premier Communications too, you know, the fact that they provide our internet, you know, they would be more than knowledgeable as far as, you know, data transmission, cybersecurity, you know, things like that. Those are all things that they deal with every single day. And it'd be really neat to have them come in and talk to some of our older kids and give them a real world perspective on, you know, the things that are important. So, moving outside of that even farther, ironically, I had my DSU t-shirt on today and I decided to take it off. I thought maybe that'd be a little bit much if I wore that tonight. But I'm currently in the MSET, the Master's of Science of Education Technology program there. And so I've had different professors who in the past have said, you know, I mean, not only do they appreciate them in their class, but they've offered to potentially give demonstrations, things like that. I was telling Jared, the guy who is actually my advisor, has created a few apps, and he's mentioned to me in the past, hey, if you ever wanted me to do a Zoom or something like that with a class and talk about app creation and what it takes to get it into the App Store and things like that, you know, he's more than willing to do that. He was actually one of the resources I asked to talk to us about Nearpod. Was that last year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago? Okay. And I thought he was really big into that website back then, and so he was kind of an expert at it at that point, and it was nice that he came in and was willing to demonstrate. So they've been a really good asset to reach out to. Northwestern.
Northwestern,
is
yeah,
where
they
you-
have a they have a computer science like endorsement. What do I want to say, classes that you can just get through like Northwestern just to get that teaching endorsement. So that's a resource too that we can reach out to.
And then even from the student side, I've mentioned in some of our meetings, at DSU, they have some camps for, actually, they had the 7th and 8th grade girls camp during the summer, which was based on cybersecurity, but it mentioned other aspects of computer science in it as well. It was a free camp. The girls would get to go, stay there for a week, come home, and then they have a 9 through 12 camp for high school students that's open to boys and girls, kind of based on the same principles, just taking up, you know, a little bit more as far as complexity. And so they are still offering those programs. I've gone to the camps that they offer for teachers too, so if it got to the point where any of our other staff wanted to go to one of those, it does usually happen the week of Heritage Days, which is not ideal as far as the teacher camps. It seems like I always miss out on some Heritage Day stuff, but the student camps are usually either before or after it. And they've been really neat programs, and all 3 sectors of those camps are free. So not only are they free, they give you some really cool stuff to come home with. So, but that's kind of the overall summary of all this. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about anything we're looking at or anything we've previously done, or?
So our requirements, we're required in high school to offer one class? I'm trying to
Yep, you're
understand
exactly
this.
right, that's the mandate.
And so that class is what for us then?
So
The
next year,
computer science principles one.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay,
and then you're also gonna be teaching a computer science application.
applications, yep.
Yep,
okay. That's.
Yep.
Yep, and those are 2 full year ones, right? Yeah.
Okay.
and so previously, that's where Craig Town has had the digital art. And then Denise Snyder's has had the web design. Yep. And then
And we're gonna continue
Yep.
with those.
still continue to offer those, but Jared's now endorsed in computer science. And so that's the kind of the mandate from the governor, is that you have a highly qualified computer science teacher at the high school level. And then going forward, as you look at your middle school and your elementary, they recommend you have a highly qualified, but it's not a mandate, it's not a requirement. And so, like Sam alluded to, he's taking classes towards that. And then Mr. Arnold has a business teaching background, but he's got all the robotics and all the tech ed experience.
What I've noticed in our meetings is Central Line is actually, you know, we've been ahead of the curve in some of these technology areas, you know, the work that Sue Ben Wise done ahead of time. We were very applications-based, however, and we had those classes to draw from, but they were just so sporadic in the high school, and again, we didn't have that computer-endorsed educator. But now getting Jared with his endorsement, we can streamline that a little bit, so it more resembles kind of our CTE department, where you got, here's your level, entry level, here's your next advanced level, and then we can filter them out and kind of, again, prepare them for what we've all come to realize is there's so many jobs out there. with a computer science focus, and that's kind of what that's where the mandate stems from, and we're already doing a good job with that. We're just streamlining it a little bit better, and we're becoming more intentional about what classes we're offering, who's teaching them, and then we're kind of filtering down, getting not away from what's been successful, which has been our applications, I would say Mr. Wagney's years ahead of his classmates when it comes to Excel and Word and PowerPoint and such, but we're trying to get more into the data analysis, kind of the networking, the cybersecurity component, which a number of our graduates are getting into. So it's been good for all of us to sit down and kind of fine tune that and kind of know what we're really good at, what we need to get a little bit better at, and then just that direction. We just need a little bit more concentration on what that direction looks like. So these guys are passionate about computer science, so that's you can hear Sam as he talks about it. He's got a
I'm sticking to the
he's got a
script.
You want me to go off?
It's gonna last a little longer than our normal meetings because it's just, they can go everywhere. And they got a lot of great experiences and through Jared's classes too, and what Mr. Arnold brings to the table. It's just, it's been fun to sit down and kind of think big, and we were able to do that because we already had a good foundation.
It's nice that it will kind of start a little sooner, I feel like, too.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like my kids have kind of been, I mean, like, they know how to play, a game or something, but
Yeah.
I feel like just typing or some of those
And one of the things-
essential skills are just
Yeah.
a little delayed, I think.
One of the things we talked about in some of our meetings too is if there is a plus side to 2020 and the pandemic, it was that students had to become a little bit more familiar with their technology just because there was that gap between being with their teachers and being at home. And so, that's been a plus too. And like, maybe it was the only pluses, but it was a plus that, kids understand Canvas a little bit better now. And that's, what as a staff, that's what we utilize and, so.
I want to thank Sam, Jared, Mr. Engelman for really digging in. They did the heavy lifting here with the plan development and all the resource collection and the collaboration with the gen ed teachers. So hats off to you guys. Thanks for all your work over the course of this year and, Sam, the previous years.
Absolutely.
How much of this is going to be required versus, I see a lot of these are electives at this point, so is it? It's an offer and teach.
So it's not a requirement, it's not like we're adding an additional credit for kids for graduation.
That was kind of, one of my questions is, okay, so if you're gonna add this, what gets taken away from, so to speak? So it sounds like at this point, it's just an elective for, they can choose road A or road B for the most part. But there isn't at this point, at least not a requirement for kids to do so many credits of it, for example.
Correct.
So then my question was going to be is, okay, so we're gonna add more credit requirements here, what gets taken away over there?
Yeah.
So at this point, nothing.
Right, it's just
Another option.
option.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
You owe Mr. Cruz.
I told Mr. Engelman, Jared printed these.
That's funny. Okay, anything else for Mr. Cruz or DeBay? Thanks again, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I might duck out at this point, because I have to take my wife to the airport tonight. She's going to see my in-laws, and I'm not going with. I don't know if that's good or bad. We'll see.
Thanks, guys.
Jared can take notes.
Thank you, guys. Thanks. Okay, principals, Mr. Harmon.
I handed out a sheet prior, go ahead and take a look at that. April, we would try to give you a pretty strong inkling of what is out there as far as upcoming class numbers. And then in May, after we've had several weeks of parents calling in and determining from their parent-teacher conferences what their students are going to do for the next year, how those numbers played out. So as you can see, the third column there for April 2023 is what we predicted or what we had for indication of what was going on. And then the fourth column there is where the actual numbers have fallen in. Just to remind the board of what we try and do. We try to be very transparent with our dates. We call every daycare, put it on the radio, put it in the paper, our sign-up dates, and so people are hopefully hearing those timelines that we would, so that we can plan for the upcoming school year. As you see there, preschool is about right on, transitional kindergarten grew, but you also see that there's a pretty good anomaly down there in what the kindergarten numbers were from what they have been in the past. We have a couple kids from the neighboring district, a couple kids that did not attend preschool, and so that number did jump to 65 actual people calling in and signing their children up for kindergarten, which for our size school is an anomaly. I did the breakdown agendas there, and so then dealing with that at this time frame is how do you look at that as a future? We always do have some swing, but it could go either way. We could gain another 5 kids by the time August rolls around here. So you're gonna see upcoming here as we work through this, and it's always hard to have a crystal ball. I wish we could predict exactly what it would be, but we don't. With those 65 kids, you're looking at 22 or 21 in the classroom. That gets to be very large with the size classes we have and the number of kids. And so if we look at the scenario of looking at a 4th section, that would bring it down to 16. Still a pretty high number for each classroom. A good problem to have, but at the same time, it does cause some things to be alarmed or that need to be considered by the school district, Mr. Jorth, and how the elementary looks at it. So we've met with those teachers to discuss how that looks. Like I said, those numbers are called in, so there's not like any guessing, as these parents are saying they are gonna be here in August. So that's where we're at with the staff, looking at how things are. 65 would probably warrant a 4th section in that kindergarten section. Any questions?
Is 4th grade decreasing to 2 teachers again next year?
Yes.
That class often does. So would one of those be able to if they?
Well, we only had 2 3rd grade teachers the year before.
Oh, sure.
So unfortunately,
Yep.
the teacher that was not used in 4th grade is heading down to 3rd grade.
Okay.
So a great
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. No, I just curious if there was an extra one.
Yeah. And so we may get creative here with how we staff that. So that's always gonna be a breakdown to see what's out there, but then also, where we can find a person. But as Mr. Jorth and I were looking, as you see the upcoming numbers, for what they were in 2021 with 46, we're actually 49 in kindergarten, so we could have the same anomaly next year. We have 22 in the current year in kindergarten, we have 23 signed up for TK next year. So it's a great problem, I'm glad we're growing. Just like to be able to predict it a little bit better. So, okay.
What I wanna know is, what did you put in the water?
Snowstorms, Mr. Grant, snowstorms. Yeah,
Yeah.
No, 20 boys and 3 girls in TK?
yeah.
I mean, the other ones are still slanted for the most part toward the boys. I mean, 36 boys and 29 girls in kindergarten.
Right.
And preschool's pretty even, but.
Yeah, so that will be a discussion, whether we put all 3 girls, and it's probably the easiest to do that, put them all on 3. But the teacher that has all boys, you just, that's not a easy feat, so.
Yeah.
We will not leave one girl out to hang.
Yeah.
My daughter's not scared.
Your girls can hang with the boys. So I know Maddie well.
Right. So,
I volunteer as tribute.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Mr. Eichelman.
Yeah, just updating you guys a little bit about kind of the graduation events coming up. This past Sunday, we actually had baccalaureate here at the high school. It's been a traditional event for us. It was well attended. It was at 7 o'clock here on last evening. Pastor Alex Sloter from Peace Lutheran did an excellent job. Well attended by the graduates and their families. We have senior awards day. The seniors' last day is actually this Wednesday, the 18th. So we'll have senior awards day in the morning, about 8:15. It's about an hour-long service for different scholarships and awards and accolades for our seniors, for our graduates. Followed by a graduation rehearsal, which I get to supervise. That's a fun thing. Kind of let the do's and don'ts. So a lot of don'ts. So no, we do that, and then the seniors are done. They do a checkout, go through a checkout process with their teachers and obviously with our technology and our librarian and the office staff here. They're out of the building until commencement on Sunday. Commencement's at 3 o'clock here in the high school gym. We are going back to tickets for family and close friends, 6 tickets per graduate for floor seating, and with the bleachers both available for anyone else who
General
wishes to
admission.
attend general admission. So kind of going back to the way things work. Yeah, it's going to be a traditional ceremony. Probably lasts close to an hour, hour 15. I know Mr. Koob is unable to attend to hand out diplomas. That's usually been the role of our president of the board. I know Dave's done that for a number of years. I think, Carrie, are you planning on, with a graduate this year, you're going to assist?
Yeah.
Okay?
Is there anybody else that would
Anyone else
like
that is
to
interested?
hand out diplomas? I know
He did ask, I'm out of town this weekend, so I'm
Okay.
not able to, but.
Andy isn't able to make it
Andy
either.
is unable to make it.
So Scott or Dave, are you guys
We can
interested?
figure it out after the board meeting or meeting, have some more
Yep.
conversation about what decide he wants to do. If Carrie doesn't want to do all of it herself.
Fun experience, getting behind the scenes. So it's,
Yeah.
It's very low pressure.
it is.
It
It is.
You just gotta make sure you get the right hand on the diploma and right hand to shake the hands out. Assuming we're shaking hands again.
Yes.
Shaking hands, yeah. So we'll go through all that on Wednesday with the graduates, and then, yeah, we'll see everybody on Sunday for the ceremony. And hopefully it's a gorgeous day, we can get outside, take some pictures afterwards, and, yeah, that's kind of for the graduation festivities. Unless you guys have any questions, that's just kind of a quick update for you, and we can talk after the meeting if anyone else wants to assist Carrie up front. Sometimes it's a little easier when it's a 2-person job, so we welcome anyone to assist.
Thanks, Mr. Engelman.
Oh, one thing I should add, and I forgot to say this, we're gonna host the Aftergrad. There's an Aftergrad committee that always helps support and kind of just a last go around with the graduates. They do that late in the evening up at Foreman Forrester Fields. They do a kickball game, and they raise funds for prizes and such, and so that's always a good event. Hopefully most of our seniors can attend that. This is the last hurrah with their classmates, and kind of just a fun and safe way to celebrate their graduation. So always want to promote that.
And that's Sunday evening?
Sunday evening, yes.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Engelman?
That is it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Jordan?
In your packet, page 33 is kind of preliminary ISAS results, and then on the back of that, page 34, it kind of has the breakdown. Just, again, want to commend our students for their performance on these preliminary results, and our teachers for their work with our students over the course of not only this year, but it's really a culmination of their entire career. Again, these preliminary reports are really just simply their cut scores. We don't have any comparable data to anybody else across the state, and we don't have any of that domain data that kind of breaks down, hey, this is their reading score, this is their writing score, this is their algebra score, or geometry. It's really just that cut score. So based upon that, continue to be really, really encouraged with our growth in the reading language arts. 87% of all students, 3rd grade through 11th grade, are proficient. You know, our goal, or I would say maybe the state's goal for every school, every grade level is 80%. So for us to be 7 points above that, that's awesome. And as you can see there, our 3rd and 4th graders, our youngest kids, you know, our 3rd graders, this is the first time they're taking that assessment. 22% of them are not only proficient, but they're advanced. So if we went back to 2019, the first year that these tests were administered, only 8% of 3rd and 4th graders at that time were advanced. So granted, it's a different group of kids, but I think that also goes back to our teachers and all the curriculum investments that the board's made, all the professional learning that our teachers have participated in over the course of the last few years, especially around reading and language arts, has really paid off. Science scores continue to improve. Science is the one test where only 5th graders, 8th graders, and 10th graders take that ISAS. It's not all kids like you get in the English and the math. So of the 5th, 8th, and 10th graders, all of those kids put together, 83% of them are proficient. If we went back to, again, the first time we did these
4 years ago, only 65% were proficient. So that's, again, tremendous growth. Math scores is the one area where our scores went down. So 77% of all students are proficient. But again, like our trend has kind of been, our high school kids still perform very, very well. So as we look at our 9th through 11th graders, we are over that 80% threshold. And so they're exiting the system, so to speak. They're performing very well on math. And I would also kind of remind the board that we're going through a similar type of study of our math curriculum. And so a year from now, we're going to be back here making a recommendation for K-12 math curriculum. And we've already started a lot of the professional development around math instructional strategies. Steph Baker, working very closely with the AEA, especially the second half of the year around what's termed the shifts in math instruction. So again, while 77% is not where we want it to be, we've already begun to kind of take those steps to address those scores. As we get kind of the individual comparable data back in the fall, we'll pass those along and give you a more detailed report next fall once we have that comparable data.
Do we get like individual, if you remember with the Iowa assessments, we would always get a sheet with your child's scores on it.
Yep.
Do we get that with the ISAP?
Yep, so we have essentially last year's individual printout that we're planning to send home with the report cards at the end of this year. And then we should get those similar reports in the fall that we can hand out at parent-teacher conferences in the fall.
Sure.
So then you have the nice kind of color-coded charts and reports from the Department of Ed.
Okay.
Yep. Moving on, the next couple pages in your packet is the updated Sr3 funding, kind of revising that or bringing that up based upon the hero pay, as I termed it here on the line item, the second line item there, are the COVID-19 retention payments that the board's approved the last couple months. So that's about $130,000 in bonus pay that we've either paid or committed to paying next September. And if you flip it over on the back, you can see the second line item that we had originally budgeted was kind of that class size reduction, keeping what is currently the second grade in 3 sections when they've got 48 students, is what we had originally budgeted for, about $150,000. So the difference between the adjustment for hero pay and what we had originally budgeted, we've got later in our meeting tonight for some curriculum materials for high school social studies, actually 8th, 9th, and 10th grade history materials. So that's underneath curriculum. You'll see the third line item there, social studies 8 through 10, U.S. and world history. So wanted to update the board based upon those changes and revisions to the ESSER dollars. The third item there in the packet is a memo from Randy Wadmeister after he and I met with Micah Freeze a couple weeks ago in regards to, I know we've talked at a couple different meetings in regards to a land swap with the development group. I gave you additional set of maps at your seat there that kind of explain some of the particulars and why this maybe hasn't been done already. And it really centers around a couple different issues. Number one, originally the pieces of property that we owned
were zoned as commercial, where what the development group currently has is agricultural. So even though we've been using that piece of property for agricultural, uses for the FFA farm, it's actually been zoned previously as commercial. So as you can see, I think the first couple pages there, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, if you're looking at the maps, pages 1 and 3 were originally Class C. That's what I highlighted. But if you were to go to maps 5 and 7, or excuse me, 5 and 8, they are now Class A, which is agricultural. Okay, so that's kind of step 1 that's been addressed. Step 2 is those 2 pieces of property that the school owns. One of them is county, which is the very first one, the big, long, skinny one. That's county property. The really small sliver, which is the third one, is actually city property. Okay?
Triangular piece?
The little tiny triangular piece, which is basically the driveway into the property. Okay?
So that's already city?
That's already city.
Okay.
Okay? And then, if you were to skip to what the development group owns, they have a similar type of issue. Okay? So, map number 10, that is city property. Okay? Map number 12 is county property. So during if we were to land swap, we want to make sure that we have either a formal written agreement with the city that we can maintain the agricultural use of the FFA plot, or during the land swap, all of that property goes back to county property so that the city cannot necessarily annex that land in the future. So there's a lot of details as we've kind of gotten into this that we're continuing to work with Randy, continuing to work with the city and the county. And so Randy, I'm inviting Randy back in June, and hopefully we've got those assurances from the city in regards to the zoning, so that all the properties are either county properties or all the properties are city properties, and then we've got some sort of written documentation that we can continue to use the land for agricultural, educational use by the FFA.
Say again, Brent, 10, page 10 is
Yep.
city, right?
So page 10 is city. So if you're looking at where it says district,
Yeah.
you see right next to it says Rock Rapids.
Yeah.
But then if you go to page 12
Mhm.
and it says district, it says Riverside, that's the township.
Yeah.
And that's the county property. Okay? So the last 2 pages is what's been basically surveyed by DGR. If this is the proposal back and forth between the development group and us, we're proposing that the school gets the north end of the hairpin. And so on the right-hand side there in kind of highlighted, we would gain a total of 2 acres while we would swap 1.5 acres to the development group. So we would gain a little less than an acre in usable land for Josh and the FFA students.
What's in that southern part that we own now? Is that pasture? Is it fenced? I think?
It is fenced, yep. And so right now, Micah and the development group is allowing us to use their property, and we're growing corn on it.
but they would like to ultimately develop that kind of southern half of that piece of property instead of the long, narrow, skinny section that they've acquired.
So how is that zoned?
So everything is agricultural right now.
Okay. What's the intent for them to, how to develop it? Would it get developed as commercial or residential?
I don't know if they've made a determination on that.
What will the cost be for us to move, I mean, like the current structures and fencing and,
Yeah, the cost would be the fencing. So Josh has written a grant from the casino, the Riverboat Foundation, for all the fencing material. We just have to tie up all this because the Riverboat Foundation has approved the grant. We gotta finalize the deal and acquire the land. So the development group's gonna pay all the surveying fees and all the attorney's fees and all this that is a part of the land swap. So there's really no cost to our activities, no cost to the general fund. Like I said, the grant has been approved for the fencing to make it secure.
does that cost to like put in a driveway, like what there's currently there or anything like that?
The driveway that's already there will continue
They
to
would still be able to
be
use it, sure.
sufficient for the need. So I just wanted to update the board on that, pass along that information. If we were to swap, we would have to have a public hearing, that's what his memo also references. And so I'll continue to work with him. I know we're meeting with the Buildings and Grounds Committee on the 8th of June, so hopefully we've got all these questions answered, and if we need to continue to wait until they are resolved, then we'll continue to wait until we can get those assurances.
So we would want it to be the northern portion of the zone agricultural, right?
Which it already is.
All of it already is.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it's city and some of it's county.
Correct.
And would it remain that way? Or would we push to have it all, I thought you made a comment about pushing to have some of it, or the city portion of it turned back to the county.
So again, the cities or the development group's in the same situation. They've got two pieces of property. One of them is county, one of them's city. Just like us, our large piece is in the county, the small sliver, the access road is in the city. So, in my opinion, it would be best if they all were county property, because that's where we're already performing our agricultural activities. We kind of maintain control of that. It would be our purview whether we would, any of the zoning would have to go through the county board of supervisors if they were gonna change any of the use out there.
Or if not, you said we need some sort of formal agreement.
If it all became city property, if that entire area, we would need some assurances that says 20 or 50 years, we're not gonna make any changes to the land use, so that the school and the FFA program can continue to use it as they've always used it. So if we have to schedule a special meeting, before June 8th anyways, I can ask Randy to come and answer any questions the board might have in regards to the land swap. Okay. D is just a reminder, Scott and Carrie, June 8th, 10 o'clock, here in the boardroom with FEH, Jackie, Steve Bresky, Might invite Lane Menning if we're gonna talk about the bus barn and get his kind of feedback and
So
input.
it's 10 o'clock. Do we always know it was 10 o'clock? It's just BBS week. I'm a teacher.
Is there a better time on the 8th?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure someone can cover for me, but I generally have BBS until noon.
So I can ask if, does 1 o'clock work better?
No, I've got meetings on Wednesday afternoon every week here, so.
I'm sure I can find someone to cover.
Well, if I miss, I can't miss one, but
I can ask them to see if they've got a date the following week, if
how long
is
does,
Vibec, 2 hours again.
how long does my school go?
BBS goes till noon.
You know,
About. Yeah, it's probably, usually I can, maybe
See if
one of my
1 o'clock
daughters
will
can
work.
cover for
I
me.
can make that work.
I'll give them a call tomorrow and let you guys know if 1 o'clock works.
Okay. Kendra Ash can probably cover for me too. So,
We'll see.
Whatever,
We'll see if it
okay.
works.
okay.
Okay, I've got a Zoom with Lou on Friday in regards to a follow-up, but in my conversation with Dave and Andy, we're gonna try to find a date this fall, September, October, for her to come back and continue our conversation around creating and supporting an environment of excellence and innovation, and then also have a conversation around superintendent evaluation, utilizing the new evaluation tool, feedback process. Is there any other topics that you would like for me to ask Lou to be prepared for?
What did you say again for her to come back for? You said the superintendent evaluation and,
We had started the supporting the environment of excellence and innovation.
okay.
And so kind of continuing that last half hour, 45 minutes
Yeah.
that she had started with us. So continuing that. So I have a meeting with her to kind of talk through those details, find a date in September, October. But if there's any other topics that you guys would like us to begin to plan for, let me know. When we met last time, we talked about maybe once or twice a year, ISB coming and having this type of learning for the board.
When's your meeting, Brent, with Lou, when are you having that? If we want any topics, can we just
Yeah,
forward those?
yep, so I got it on Friday morning,
Right.
9 o'clock. So if there's additional topics you want me to explore with her, I can resend the list that they kind of have as canned presentations, but again, they can personalize anything for us based upon our desires.
It'd be good to get some more background on the superintendent evaluation.
Yep.
That new process and form document would be helpful for us, I think, to get some more.
Yep.
Better understanding of it.
You bet.
More than anything else.
F then, Summer Strength and Speed Program, this last Thursday, was Shelby Asmus from Avera, a certified strength and conditioning coach, and Nick, I forget Nick's last name, but a second certified strength and conditioning coach was down and met with Grant Engel and our head coaches of our coaching staff to talk about the summer weightlifting and acceleration programming that they have. Got a good plan. The boys are gonna be working out Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and the girls are Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so they went through kind of that plan for, these are the exercises, these are the workouts that they're going to be doing through the summer. So excited to kind of expand that partnership with Avera, and we'll continue to look at future opportunities to grow that partnership with Avera in the future. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Engelman?
No, it's been interesting getting to know the Avera clientele and kind of, We have a number of kids who take advantage of their programs in Sioux Falls, so it's nice to be able to bring something to this community, so we don't have to have kids transportation issue, and we can expose more kids to that. Just keep them engaged throughout the summer. And again, having the Vera's oversight with that particular program is just advantageous. So Mr. Engel has been very good about being the facilitator, getting the coaches, getting coaching input. Hopefully that's something we can just continue to use as support throughout our, our school year as well. So, our weightlifting program.
And then G, I already gave you your certificate, so again, thanks for your service as a school board member.
Did I see something on the calendar for middle school? I don't know what was it called? Some sort of, is there something coming up
With the,
with middle school with?
Like strength and conditioning? Oh,
there is something with.
There was like a question mark, there's somewhere that I saw.
Acceleration camp.
Yeah.
So our hope is that either a Vera or somebody, one of our maybe track and field coaches can provide like a 2-week or a 4-week acceleration camp after baseball and softball is done with the city. So after the 4th of July, kind of the middle 2 weeks of July between the end of softball and dead week, and then maybe the first 2 weeks in August for those really 5th through 8th graders that don't have anything structured. But we haven't been able to get a firm commitment yet. But that's why it's a question mark. So we're continuing those conversations and trying to work out those details. Carrie? Yeah, go ahead, Dave, I'm sorry.
Carrie, did you want to talk about the foundation?
Sure. Yeah, so I was at their meeting last Tuesday. Most of what is going on with the foundation is the all-school reunion planning. So that's, what was discussed, and they will be, the reunion is the 18th. And we have a meal catered for that. And then also talked about the foundation scholarship, and that they are $10,000 in scholarships this year, which is an increase over $2,500 in the past. So a nice, very nice of the foundation to recognize that many students. So I think there's 15. I think they received 29 applicants, so that was good. And then I also gave them some big project options. So they, Mr. Jorth, I met with Mr. Jorth, and he had given me a list of like five big project ideas. So I talked to them about that. I gave them some information, and now they kind of talk about it and decide what they would like to do. They do, and I talked about what last year's is a academic board, and that, it will say the foundation on that, right? And that's what I thought. And they really like that when they, when it can be something visible that the community sees that they were a part of, because that's community donations are what fund that. So it's nice for the community members to see what some of their funds are going to. So they really like that, and I think in the future there might be some other options with some boards and fine arts and things like that we might be doing. But we have probably a little more technology based for this upcoming year, which a lot of our projects in the past have been a little bit more technology based.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I think it was the screens and the projectors in the auditorium, kind of technology based, but they've also supported so many different, I think when I talked to Jeff Cruz, like 13 of the last 15 years has been some sort of tech project. All the equipment in here was one of their big projects, and so I think they're just kind of looking at all their different options. We gave them a couple from the facility study, like that cyclorama in the auditorium, the
kind of the big backdrop, that's a $4,000 estimated cost. We talked about upgrading the lighting also in the auditorium, I think it was $700 or $400 per fixture. So whatever they were comfortable with, but the projection there was about $23,000 for all the lighting upgrades in the auditorium. But then with the computer science program,
There's some,
Sam and
Jared.
Jared had basically $10,000 of wish list items for the 5th grade through high school computer science. So,
I think and maybe most of those items 5th through 8th grade, if I
Yep.
kind of was talking with
Yep.
Jeff Cruz about that.
Yep.
So, but yeah, to kind of get that program,
Yeah.
does that, so that's maybe our preference, or Mr. Joris thought that would be a good need of ours, but they have some different
yeah,
options
we're
there.
just really thankful that they wanna dedicate $10,000 every year to a big
Yeah,
project.
it's pretty awesome.
Certainly. Okay, anything else there, Carrie? Other board members, anything to discuss? Okay, we'll move on to old business, there's none, we'll move on to new business. Consider fiscal year 22 budget amendment. Jackie?
It's on page 1, or it's actually in the board packet as well with a little bit of a memo, pretty self-explanatory. In the instruction area, instruction would be your primary teaching staff. So you got your governor's retention bonuses, plus all of our state co-curricular successes, so all of our state trips, and then a little bit of capital outlay in our instruction that just wasn't planned for, so we need to amend our own budget to increase the line items for that. Support services would be your support staff, such as your paraeducators and those kinds of things, so we want to make sure we take care of that as well. I call them governor retention bonuses, even though it's coming out of ESSER or hero pay, but just so everybody's aware. And then non-instructional, little bit of the house project and some supply chain issues that increase costs. So all in all, I have that increase at $400,000. I don't think we'll need all $400,000, but I just did enough that we hopefully can avoid that write-up that we don't like the auditor. So I need to file that by May 31st, which is why we put it as a publication 10 to 20 days before the public hearing. We did the public hearing at 6:55, so now it's just an approval and then my filing tomorrow.
Roll call vote, anything like that? No? Okay.
No, the biggest part is the publication and then the hearing for anyone to object.
Okay. Gotcha, thank you. Questions for Jackie? Is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 22 budget amendment?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
A motion second to approve the fiscal year 22 budget amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2, consider approval of leadership staff wages, etc.
As the memo listed, very similar to our settlements with teachers and support staff members, a 353 increase for each leader. So it comes to about $29,812. And then 2 retention payments, $1,000 per leader here in the May pay period. And then the similar type of prorated amount for a maximum of $1,000 next September, but $250 per year of service, with the first year being the first year of the pandemic, and then if the leaders return for next school year for a maximum of $1,000 in September. Dave, anything you want to add as a member of the Personnel Committee?
No, that's very straightforward. What we discussed. Very, very consistent with what we did for both teachers and other staff members as well. And the bonuses come out of ESSER dollars. Correct. And not just general fund dollars. The 3.53 salary increase does, of course, come out of general fund.
So that's where that ESSER worksheet that was in my report is amended, and it has that line item for hero pay. includes the leaders, includes the teachers that weren't covered by the governor's retention payment, and then all of our support staff members. Was the fiscal year '22, and then fiscal year '23 will be the September payments. Again, each one of those September payments is prorated based upon your years of service and then you returning to work for us next year. That's why we're waiting until September to issue those.
So just current that, under September, that May 2 date, should that be September 2?
Excuse me?
If you look under the September 2022,
Mhm.
it says paid on May 2, that should be September 2, or?
No, I'm paying this month for the first $1,000.
Okay. Which is the May 20,
Yep, it should be just the 20th
Okay.
instead of the 2. Yep, so
Yeah.
May of 2022. And then in September, if they qualify,
to be another job.
the prorated. Mhm.
Okay.
Everyone who's employed right now gets the May, but yes, you,
Okay.
May 2022.
So there's 11 quote-unquote leaders. Yep.
Other questions on that? The motion to approve the leadership salary settlement as listed.
So moved.
Second?
The motion second to approve the leadership salary settlements as listed on the favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The Director of Transportation shared contract with GLR.
So page 41 has the memo. As you can see there, basically maintaining the same agreement with George Little Rock at 80/20, so 4 days here at Central Lyon, 1 day at George Little Rock for Mr. Menning. GLR pays 20% of his salary, so that's $16,825. And then in addition, we get the sharing incentives for $29,652. So not only a financial benefit for us, but George Little Rock as well. And Lane has done a very good job this year coming up to speed on his role as transportation director. And my conversations with Mr. Luxford at George Little Rock is they've been very happy as well and look to continue that relationship for next year.
So they're getting what they need with just 20% of the time at this point?
Yep.
Okay, questions? A motion to approve the shared contract with GLR for the transportation director position.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
A motion second to approve the director of transportation shared contract with GLR. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 4, consider adding 4th section kindergarten.
So like Mr. Harmon's already reported, I just kind of updated you based upon what that would look like. He identified that we've got 65 projected kindergarten students. When you compare it to this year with 52, the class sizes are very similar. The big difference here is this year we had 33 TK students, and next year we're projecting only 23. Now, like he said, these numbers could change slightly, but we're pretty confident if we add the 4th section that we'll still have approximately 65 students in kindergarten.
So one of the things we talked about on Thursday was having it, what we've done with, what classes in 2 sections this year, is it 3rd grade?
3rd grade.
3rd grade? So that's gone down to 2 sections, and I will have a class that will be in 4 sections for some period of time, at least likely. We may continue it again next year and then following years. So that'll be some shuffling that we'll have to do, like with staff members, and either add a staff member position here or do some creative staffing, as we've discussed potentially.
so. It's not necessarily because we'll have 10 additional kids. I mean, the number of kids that we have right now, ironically, is the exact same number of kids that we'll have next fall. It's just this, where they fall is different. So as you can see here, you know, our TK sections are much larger this year. Where traditionally they've been smaller, they've been around that 10 to 12 to class size, which is gonna be more traditional, is what we're anticipating for next year. We just had, like I said, a larger TK section, but then we also had some families that chose kindergarten over TK, which was recommended by preschool teachers, and that's fine. But we also had 3 families that showed up at visit day that were open enrolled kindergartners, so just a few different factors there contributed to additional larger kindergarten size.
So, okay, so first grade next year will be 52 or so based on, and then like our second grade, so what's our current first?
Look it up here quick. You know off the top of your head, Mr. Harmon?
No, 54. Gets it first.
So currently, we've got 52 kindergartners and 50 first graders.
Okay,
So
and then
second
what
grade,
about third and fourth? Third is
There's 40 kids.
40.
and the current second grade is 48. So next year's fourth grade will be 2 sections like this year's third grade is.
So one of the 4th grade teachers is moving down to 3rd grade then?
Correct.
Next year's third grade will be 48.
Yes,
Okay, and next year's fourth grade will be 40.
Mhm.
correct.
So that's. Kindergarten.
So we've got some pretty big swings from 40 to 65 in a matter of a few years.
Yeah, like how does that in like 5th and 6th grade, we're pretty, I mean, we just probably won't, when the 4th grade goes.
That's where Mr. Arnold, we're hoping to push him down and create a 2nd through 4th grade special. Similar to Mr. Poletsky, we're hoping that he will also be able to do some of that STEM work where this next year he's gonna be 5th and 6th grade science, so he'll have some more flexibility. And then Mrs. Maxwell will be able to do some more interventions around reading in English. So, I mean, again, as these grade levels that are small, like 40, start to work their way through our middle school, it's more difficult to shuffle those staff around simply because now they're content specialists instead of a generalist like an elementary, you know, kindergarten through 4th grade teacher is.
And then we don't know, we have our kindergarten will be 65 and that'll be 4 sections that we're likely gonna need a teacher to kind of keep moving with them for a few years. And we don't know what's coming up with preschool and we knew.
Yeah,
that
so
number,
we're,
but we don't
again,
know
we're
our
projecting 49 preschoolers. I will tell you, any of these grade levels between now and the first of the year, it's not uncommon for us to have families that move and we don't know it.
Yeah.
There's also the opposite end of that. They didn't hear about any of our kindergarten roundup activities or preschool visit day, and they're paying more attention in the fall when we have registration and we might have a new family or so.
So you're saying it's not likely a fifth grade teacher would really move down because they're specialized?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Again, with licensure, elementary teachers are typically licensed K-6. Secondary teachers, like most of our 5th and 6th grade teachers, are licensed 5-12
Sure.
because of the content.
Yep.
Now, we do have some 5th and 6th grade
That have
teachers that
elementary.
have elementary, but not as, not as many that have 5 through 12 endorsements.
Well, I think it makes sense to have kindergarten in 4 sections if there's 65.
That was our conversation 2.5 years ago, right before COVID started, was especially at that, early elementary, the smaller class sizes allows for us to give them more one-on-one attention or more small groups. As they get older, that's where we really start to evaluate their need even more. But that's again where Mr. Harmon and I, last Thursday, we sat in this room with all of our preschool, TK, kindergarten teachers, and Michelle Van Wy, Krista Sproke, Steph Baker as our instructional coaches, and really had a conversation about all the kids based upon that showed up at visit day, any of the needs, whether they're special education, whether they've been identified for early intervention around reading and math, and the needs of what will be the kindergartners tells us that a 4th section is appropriate.
So like with the 48 kids that'll be in 3rd grade, are we still needing, that is just kind of needs, do we think we'll keep them in 3 sections, 3rd grade and 4th grade? And even though it's a little bit smaller than
Yep.
our others?
Otherwise you're going to 24 kids
Yeah,
per
I
class.
guess it'd be a lot.
That's how the current seniors were all the way up.
Not as much as it should be once they get
Yeah.
into middle school
They
and high school.
had more. Earlier on, they had, in elementary, they had 50.
They still, but they were at that 48 to 52 mark,
Yeah.
but
I think I like, if we can make it work to have smaller sections within reason, or
Okay, other questions? Discussion? Okay, is there a motion to approve adding a 4th section of kindergarten for 22-23?
I'll make a motion to approve a 4th section of kindergarten for 2022-23.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the adding of a 4th section for kindergarten for 2022-23. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Consider adding FCCLA sponsor to the extra duty schedule.
Page 61 of the packet has my memo, and then the other supporting documents are the extra duty schedule, and then kind of the recommendations from the Department of Ed in regards to the adding of not only FCCLA, but in the future, Skills USA for industrial technology, and then FBLA for the business department. But this year, Mrs. Christensen was paid $2,500 utilizing Perkins funds, actually the Regional Planning Partnership Funds, which is a part of the Perkins law. But as we look to add additional CTSOs in those other departments, we need to kind of absorb them with our ongoing operational budget. So it's our recommendation that we continue to maintain at $2,500 and that Mrs. Christensen be hired as the sponsor for FCCLA. Anything to add, Mr. Engelmann?
Okay, so the hiring Mrs. Christensen is down in the hiring section for that position. So this is purely just adding the position.
Adding the position.
So are the extra duty schedules, the percentages based on how much, an estimate of how much time it takes? that how that's done, like 0.1 versus 0.25 versus whatever for whatever coach?
Set up long before I got here, so I'm gonna go with, it was an agreement with the Education
Yeah.
Association way back in the day.
Again, when chapter 20 changed, when the law in chapter 20 changed, these became not a part of the negotiated contract, became a part of our handbook. And so, as I talk to other superintendents across the conference, across Northwest Iowa, you know, they're paying similar to this $2,500, and it's kind of setting that for these other organizations coming forward. So,
Okay.
that's where the recommendation's coming from.
But in answer to your question, I would say yes to a point. I would also say just the demand of the activity as well.
No, not questioning whether this is appropriate, just kind of more of a general question. Okay, questions? Is there a motion to approve the adding of the FCCLA sponsor to the extra duty schedule beginning next year?
I'll make a motion to approve adding the FCCLA sponsor.
Second.
I have a motion second to approve adding an FCCLA sponsor to the extra duty schedule for 22-23, beginning in 22-23. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consider adopting the K-12 computer science plan. There's much more there.
Isn't, the only thing I would add is that computer science team will continue to meet into the future. We'll review the plan annually, make updates, revisions, amendments to that plan, especially as we look to kind of push down the computer science instruction and utilize Mr. Arnold in the future, kind of in that upper elementary, 2nd through 4th grade. You know, our elementary teachers will not see much of a difference this next year when it comes to the tech ed or the computer science. You know, we don't want to add anything more to their plates. You know, their plate is full already. So the things that they're already doing, whether it's the edu-typing, whether it's, you know, using the integrated projects, and the Microsoft applications, whether it's PowerPoint or Word, you know, we want them to continue to do what they're doing. And then as Mr. Arnold gets to know the staff and can begin to collaborate, if we can add things next year and it makes sense and it's not a burden, then we'll start doing it next year. But really, we're looking at the 23-24 year for some sort of kind of push in specials type of model with Mr. Arnold at that upper elementary level.
Do you feel like our specials, you know, we have PE and music and art right now, but, I mean, are we planning to keep those still on a every 3 days schedule, and this is just gonna be
Something in addition,
something
much like,
addition?
you know, Mrs. Gerber pushes in for counseling into the elementary classrooms. They also are on a rotation for library time. And so if we can maybe create something similar on a similar type of 3-day rotation, if we can make the staffing work, it makes sense that it's on a similar type of 3-day rotation with counseling, with library,
Sure.
with computer science. And again, because majority of our sections are 3 sections, so if we're able to create a similar type of rotation, we'd like to do that. There's no, at the elementary or the middle school level, there is no minimum number of minutes in a school year or, you know, set amount of time that we need to be providing that computer science instruction. That's only at the high school level. That's where the minimum is 1/2 unit, 1 semester. We want to do more than the minimum. We want it to be a sequential, like Mr. Engelman kind of alluded to, program. So you got basically an entry-level, full-year computer science principles, a 2nd year computer science applications for a full year, and then opening your dual credit options through NCC or other, you know, institutions where kids can continue to work with Mr. DeBay, but it's really working maybe on some college-level computer science down a pathway because a kid has taken 2 years of that direct instruction with Mr. DeBay.
So how many classes will he teach this first year in the high school, Mr. Boyd?
So he'll have a minimum of 2 computer science courses, yep. And then he'll have another of any of those kids that are taking independent study or the dual credit classes through NCC, which we have a handful of kids that do that between different semesters.
And then what else does he do?
Yep, so he's also a certified math teacher as well.
And so he's gonna have math classes next year then too, into the schedule.
Yep.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve, the adoption of the K-12 computer science plan as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the K-12 computer science plan.
I'll second.
I have a motion and second to approve the K-12 computer science plan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consider the curriculum purchases as listed there.
So again, a couple of these are really consumable items. The K-8 literacy, really great reading. These are, this is our 3rd year, going to be our 3rd year next year using really great reading. And so those are, like I said, workbooks, annual subscriptions for use with our literacy program. The Go Math materials, similar K-5 materials. This will be like year 8 of Go Math. And the original agreement with Houghton Mifflin for Go Math was 6 years. So this time next year, we'll have a K-12 adoption instead of just a 1-year agreement for the elementary. And I've already alluded to the history materials here, utilizing ESSER dollars to a little bit ahead of our curriculum adoption and study process, simply because we want to maximize those ESSER dollars. So 8th grade U.S. history is kind of the colonization to the Civil War, and then 9th grade is world history and geography, and then 10th grade is Civil War to present materials. So Mr. Docker led the social studies team in looking at a bunch of different textbooks and materials, and these were their recommendations coming from that social studies team.
So the 8 through 10 history, that is not just a 1-year purchase like the?
It's 8 years, yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that's what the majority of, like when we did ELA 3 years ago, the Into Reading materials is an 8-year purchase, so you don't have to keep buying stuff. The only really great reading is the only consumable that we are supplementing. Science materials was an 8-year, so we don't have to buy any new science stuff each year. It's only the stuff that they might have used for experiments that we've got to replenish. But no new textbooks, we don't pay an annual subscription for student access to the online materials or teacher access. You pay it one time, you got it for 8 years.
So these 30, whatever thousand dollars it is, we expect that to be, cover us for 8 years?
8 years.
Okay, gotcha.
And so is that like hardcover books or?
Yep, so what we're doing with these, we're doing a classroom set of actually 35. So most of our classes at the 8th through 12th grade is about 20 to 22 kids. So we've got 10 to 15 books that kids can check out and take home with them. They always have their device, they always have electronic access. But-
Which is not what we don't have right now
Correct,
for social studies.
Yep.
Is online access,
correct.
so.
So this will be the first time social studies will have that online access, computer access, where in the past we've always just had the textbook.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve the curriculum purchases as listed?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve these curriculum purchases as listed. Now all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, consider Jess equipment bid for steamer for food service.
Darcia's given you a couple different bids here. Her memo really does a nice job of explaining why she wants to add a steamer to the kitchen. She's visited a couple schools, talked to multiple schools. We do not currently have a steamer, so this would be a new piece of equipment. She did get 3 bids. This is actually the middle bid. It's $1,100 more expensive than the low bid, but it's her recommendation, my recommendation, Steve Bresky's recommendation that we take the bid from Jess Equipment in Sheldon because they provide not only delivery and installation, but service after the sale, whereas the Rapid Wholesale out of Marion, we don't get any of that. We get they just ship it to us. They don't physically come install it. They don't work with Steve to talk about how it works and how to service it. And if we were to have any issues with it going forward, it would be us trying to find a service, which would probably be Jess down in Sheldon to service it. So even though it's a little bit higher bid, we feel like the service component outweighs the $1,150.
Questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the bid from Jess Equipment for the steamer for food service?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion second to approve the bid from Jess Equipment for the steamer for the food service. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Consider high school gym scores table, etc.
So, been working with Varsity Group, also I've worked with Sports Graphics out of Clarion on similar materials, but Varsity Group had a better quote, and so pages 95 through 97 kind of have the upgrades. So the wall padding, what you see here would be the design underneath the basketball hoops in the competition gym. The scores table, if you remember, next year we gotta have a shot clock. And so our current scores table's 1 8-foot table, but we can't add the additional staff on there and get everybody at the scores table. So the recommendation is 2 8-foot tables. That way, not only can we use it for basketball and the additional people that need the help for the shot clock, but then we can also use those 2 tables. Let's say if we've got a wrestling match and we've got 2 mats, we can have a table for each mat. Similar for volleyball, there's some times we play with 2 nets. We can use 2 tables, 1 dedicated to each net in the competition gym. So that's the scores table. The banners that you see on page 96, right now we've got the banners that hang from the ceiling. If we're down to Sioux Center's new gym, they've got similar type of banners where each year, if we're a conference champ or we're a state qualifier, you would add the year to this banner instead of hanging another banner from the rafters. But then for our state championships, each year we would, if we were to win a girls' state golf title, we would add a similar banner, and instead of, again, hanging it from the rafters, we would affix it to the wall in the gym going forward. So this project had been talked about previously amongst the Booster Club, and just took us a while to get all the historical data, but as we look to renew our kind of partnership agreements with our athletic and activities sponsors, these are some of the projects that we're going back to them and saying, these are the upgrades, these are what we want to kind of fund with their donations going forward. And then the last one is the fight song. Right now, if you look on page 97, the little fight song poster that we have is kind of faded, right? That's underneath the lions on the right-hand side there. This would be a similar type of wall graphic that would go on the wall, but instead of putting it kind of behind the student section, this is gonna be on the kind of opposite side above the new padding, so that fans that are in our home stands, if they're looking over at the pep band, then you've got the words to the fight song right there.
So how is this being funded then? We
So
make the
initially,
purchase?
yep, so initially we
and
make a
then-
purchase with PEPL or Save dollars, and then very similar to like the video, when we did the video board, you know, the first few years of those sponsorship dollars essentially repay the PEPL Save account.
And so some of those dollars then would go,
Would funnel back into PEPL and Save, yep.
And that's boosters, is that what you said? Booster? No,
No.
not booster, okay. I thought you said they've been discussing this.
They have been
before, so-
discussing it, you know, but they made generous contributions when we went to state basketball,
Sure.
that I don't necessarily feel like we need to have the booster club kind of continue with that project, because I know they've, in addition to all the state support, they've, I think it was $18,000 last month, we said that they contributed to all of our programs, so.
has our sponsorship paid for our video boards?
Yep.
Yet, and then,
Yep, so we're at the end of that 5-year agreement. And so I met with like Premier Bank and Frontier Bank, and we're gonna be finalizing those before July 1. If there's other businesses or other entities in the community that wanna join, then they can, but we wanted to go back to our original agreements first.
The wall padding, is that an upgrade or needs to be replaced, or what's the?
So if you were to go in there, the ones that are right underneath the baskets, a lot of the staples are starting to come out, so we've had to kind of repair them. Steve Bresky and his crew, is kind of at their end of life.
This is, on the fight song, maybe I'm saying it wrong. I thought the first line is supposed to be fight on for your fame, is it not? Fight on for your fame. I'm not-
I'll double check.
I'm not trying to like, I just noticed it and I don't want it to get printed on the wall, so. just-
I'll double check.
Okay, sorry.
That's good, it's another good set of eyes.
That's what the second line does say.
Right?
The second line does say that.
Yeah, I know the next line says it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe I've been saying the first line wrong. I don't know. Right, good.
I'm not a Lion other than a transplant, so I can't argue
so
that.
it's just missing on.
Right.
Right on for your fame. Oh, that's good, good catch.
So do we,
Pay me the design fee later.
colors are still gonna be purple and gold and white in all of the diagrams.
Yeah. I can. Plug in here, I can plug in here.
You say it should be color in your
Oh, okay.
packet.
Oh, I mean, I could just look in my packet.
It was looking blue to me, but maybe it's my computer.
Yeah, it's purple.
I want to say one color, one sometimes.
What, right there, Scott.
I got it here too. It's a new technology thing I'm not used to.
So there's the wall padding, and then that similar type of lettering on the scores table.
Is that scores table gonna be bigger than the one that we have right now?
So we only have one 8-foot table right now, so basically be double that size. And then these are the championship banners, purple, with our logo and the conference logo and the,
Will 8 foot be too much?
have to make adjustments to where people.
So like, right now, we've got some space between the scorer's table and the first set of
Mhm.
chairs, but we should have enough room for bench personnel. You know, we do have some extra room, so there could be a manager that sits at a table, or the book, person keeping the book can be right by the coaches, or right by the official scorer. So,
But we think we're better off doing 2 8-foot than 2 6-foot or something.
correct, yep. And so here's the state championship items, and then here's purple and gold for the fight zone.
Girls basketball that long ago already.
Mhm.
Yes. 2003?
That doesn't seem right.
2013.
2013.
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
you're right.
Yeah. 9 years ago, not 19 years ago. I was here 19 years ago. I mean, I was here, but not.
My first year of teaching, 2003.
Okay. Other questions about that? Number 9. A motion to approve those items.
So,
Second?
Motion second to approve the high school gym chorus tables and the other things listed in item 9. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Personnel resignations first.
Like I said, we removed Kyra Waletich under number 5, but added Megan Witzel as middle school volleyball coach.
Any questions on any of those?
For a reason we having so many at once, or just the way it's,
For food service or
Yeah.
for,
yeah, for food service?
in my conversations with Darsha, it's, I think we've been very fortunate with our part-time staff. That 2 of those 3 have been hired in the last 2 years, as we've been kind of short-staffed. And then they're just at a point where they want to be fully done working.
They're veterans.
Veterans.
Questions about those, comments? Not, is there a motion to approve those resignations as listed?
so
A second.
A motion second to approve the resignations as listed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Transfers. Mr. Burrows, want to explain those?
Mr. Harmon? So as retirements or staff that are leaving open up new positions, the process says that staff can apply, and those we work through the interview process as far as who's qualified, and those positions, if it's a good fit for the district. From those transfers, that's where you see their, Noah Jones going from special ed down to transitional kindergarten, and then Jane going from a classroom teacher to the special ed position. So both of them will be certified in those positions, so it's not like they have to receive any new education. That's a big thing for the transfers.
Remind me who left TK?
Brittany Kuiper. Yep, so,
That's right, she left, okay, or is leaving, that is
yeah,
right after this year.
she's getting married and then they're moving out east.
So the plan would be to backfill then for the first grade position?
So if approved, then we'll advertise.
Advertising.
just like you approved the fourth section of kindergarten.
So we're gonna have for teacher positions, and we're gonna have at kindergarten, a first grade.
That's it.
Okay, and what was Nola? She
was special ed.
Special ed.
Kind
And
of
that's-
upper elementary and middle school special ed. And that's what Jamie,
And that's what Jamie,
our recommendation is.
What age groups will Jamie do? That's upper elementary and.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
I mean, I think NOLA's current roster is 3rd through 7th grade.
Okay.
You know, we're meeting with special ed teachers here before the end of the year to kind of go through that as our seniors graduate and all of our students work their way through the system. We look at, you know, all the needs and try to balance those rosters. So we have similar caseloads for each of our special ed teachers. But that, you know, similar certification, Jamie's certification is K-8 for special ed, yeah, mild, moderate, intellectual disabilities. She does not have Strat 2, so she would not be qualified to work with significantly disabled students or students that are on alternative assessments. You know, a couple months ago, we hired Bailey Fitch to replace Rebecca Hakeman. Bailey has a Strategist 2 endorsement to work with students with alternative assessments. At the elementary level, Christy Call has her Strat 2. At the middle school level, Emily DeVay has her Strat 2. So we're very blessed and fortunate to have 3 special ed teachers that give us the flexibility to meet the needs of all of our kids.
Okay, other questions about those 2 transfers? Is there a motion to approve those 2?
so moved.
A motion second to approve the 2 transfers as listed. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Hirings.
And then from the hirings that we had available, Mr. Engelmann and I said as administrators, we had a pool of teachers that contributed to that and gave us input on how that interview process went. So like for Mr. Arnold, the 5th and 6th grade tech, and then the other positions, as you see the summer school listing there, we're offering a similar format where we have our summer reading program in collaboration with the public library program. So that will be 4 days that they're working with that public library, and then 3 days up here at school. In the month of June, or I should say the second, third, fourth week of June. So they get in 12 dates there. And then we're also looking at an August kickoff for those kids that are double flagged, to give those parents an opportunity to have 2 weeks in August to get ready for school. And then also with Mr. Cruz, he works with the EL summer program there. Approximately 14 kids coming to that. And then he has ELs of April, and some other people help with, just keep them going with school over the summer. So he does that for 5 weeks. So that's what it's a long list. And of course, the learner assistance is, they provide transportation. We did that last year as a, go pick up kids in Dune for the reading program, and help out Kids Club to get them over here. So we do those things to help boost our numbers and keep the participation levels high. So.
You want to talk about extended school year? Special ed?
Oh, yeah. Is it just the one?
Emily?
I just have Emily DeVay for an extended school year for a student who needs additional services according to their IP. Yep. So I just have the one there, Emily DeVay.
I don't have any at this time in my calendar yet, so.
Okay. Brett, do you want to talk about 2 through, probably just 2, 3, and 4, Jill Christensen, we already kind of know about.
Yep. Sam Cruz, or Sherwin Langholt, it's our recommendation to mentor Zach Collins, our new middle school band instructor. And then Sam Cruz to be a mentor for Eric Arnold, a new hire for 5th and 6th grade tech ed. And then, like we mentioned already, Jill Christensen, FCCLA sponsor, Trevor Reinecke for assistant high school baseball coach. Again, trying to work through the licensure process for him. He's basically been attending practice, but just observing, he hasn't been coaching, just so he has been around the program, but he's not working directly with kids until he does obtain his license. And so we're hoping that he's finished school at Northwestern, he's on the Northwestern baseball team, he's a pitcher for the Northwestern baseball team, would be a good addition to the staff. We just gotta complete the licensure process. And we're really at the mercy of the BOEE on that.
Okay, so we need, in approving him, we have to make sure that we do that one pending his licensure.
Yeah, so if you approve this, whenever we have confirmation from the BOEE that he has licensure, you're essentially saying he can start working with kids. We don't have to have a special meeting then to approve his hiring. We don't know if that could come through tomorrow or 2 weeks. So if you approve it, it just saves us another meeting or a Zoom meeting or a conference call at some point.
And then, let's just take the last one in there as well, the assistant high school volleyball coach.
Yep, Megan Witzel, Dan Cruz has his memo I placed on your desk. We had a couple different applicants, but Megan has been on the high school staff previously, last 2 years worked with Mr. Wright in the middle school, and now coming back to the high school program. Anything to add to that, Mr. Engelman?
No, she's got a wealth of experience and she's stayed within the program over the last several years and it's been, yeah, she'll be a quality addition to that high school staff once again.
Okay.
For coaching positions and maybe some of that extra, then we'll need a middle school volleyball. Is there anything, and we maybe have some NHS and some of that.
NHS and prom sponsor.
The ones you just approved up above.
Assistant track.
Assistant track, but she's gonna stay cross country. coach.
Probably likely for 1 more year. Yep. And ultimately, George holds the cross-country
Right,
contracts.
that's right, so that's.
But, just like in football, it's best if we've got coaches in both buildings. Mandy's been great because she does have her bus license and so she transports the kids. So that could be another tricky position. I'm sure we've got people interested, but it also comes with the logistics.
Our baseball is all.
If you were to approve this, then we would have 3 coaches for baseball.
Okay, so unless somebody wants to take some of these separate, we'll just do one motion to approve all the hirings that are listed.
Make a motion to approve the hirings as listed, pending certified licensure.
Second.
A motion second to approve the hirings as listed, including Trevor Reineke is pending his licensure. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Announcements, dates to remember. A number of them here.
Yeah, I just point to Wednesday is a senior awards assembly. Anybody that would like to attend is invited. But primarily it's the high school student body. But we do have parents and family members that will attend. Also on Wednesday night, we've got the PTC scoop supper and ice cream social on the playground if we've got nice weather
Correct.
outside.
So the raffles, I think we're all ready to go with it, so.
And then we got state track at the end of this week, Commencement Sunday. Next Wednesday is our first home softball and baseball games will be both played on the same night against Sioux Center. And then obviously next Friday is our last day of school with kids. And then the band and choir students We'll be headed to Florida a week from Sunday. And then I will call and see if FEH can come in the afternoon on the 8th. And then our next board meeting is scheduled for June 13th. Is there any conflicts on the 13th?
T-ball or baseball.
That's what I
I
did.
was like, between all the kids, I'm sure I've got a game that night, but it's fine. I will work around.
Doesn't slow down in the summer,
Yeah,
does it?
I know.
Okay, anything else? A motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Motion second to adjourn, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks everyone for attending.
What's coaching doing? Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Good to see you.
It's exciting to have people doing it that are
Or come and see you.
really interested, because they have kids that, age, you know what I mean? Like, and not that they're coaches are bad, you know, it's the bare minimum, they should